Russia has been pressing demands that the U.S. give it access to 2 diplomatic compounds seized in the U.S. last year. After high-level talks between both sides, one Russian official involved said the row had almost been resolved. Russia has been angered by the move, with Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov calling it daylight robbery. In December, the U.S. expelled 35 Russian diplomats and shut the compounds over suspicions of meddling in U.S. elections. The talks saw U.S. Undersecretary of State Thomas Shannon host Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov in Washington on Monday. Mr. Ryabkov sounded upbeat after 3 hours of talks with the American diplomat. He was asked by reporters if the spat over the diplomatic compounds had been settled, and he replied, "Almost, almost." U.S. officials did not comment and there has been no official press briefing. The meeting was meant to have been held in June in St. Petersburg, but was cancelled after the U.S. government added 38 individuals and organizations to its list of sanctions over Russian activity in Ukraine. Before the talks, Russia made clear it was demanding restored access to the facilities. "We consider it absolutely unacceptable to place conditions on the return of diplomatic property. We consider that it must be returned without any conditions and talking," Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said. Mr. Lavrov said that this was not the way decent and well-brought-up people behaved. "How can you seize property which is protected by a bilateral, intergovernmental, ratified document and, to return it, act according to the principle what is mine, and what is yours we'll share?" he said during a visit to Belarus. Last week Russia said it was considering specific measures in retaliation, including the expulsion of 30 U.S. diplomats and seizure of U.S. state property. Ex-President Barack Obama acted against Russia after U.S. intelligence sources accused Russian state agents of hacking into Democratic Party computers to undermine Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. Luxury Russia resorts in U.S. crosshairs. President Donald Trump's team is under investigation over alleged Russian collusion during last year's presidential campaign. The Kremlin has denied interfering in the election. The Obama sanctions came on top of existing Western sanctions imposed because of Russia's role in the Ukraine conflict. At the time, Mr. Putin refrained from tit-for-tat retaliation, unlike in previous diplomatic spats. Mr. Trump had been elected to succeed President Obama just weeks before. Russia says President Trump presented no plan to resolve the crisis when the issue was raised at the G20 meeting in Hamburg on 7 July. Russia would retaliate if no compromise was reached at the meeting between Mr. Ryabkov and Mr. Shannon, the Russian newspaper Izvestia reported. Barbara Pletusher, BBC News, Washington. Russian officials welcomed the tone of the recent meeting between the two presidents. But the political climate in Washington has only grown more toxic, with the ongoing inquiries into allegations of Russian meddling in the presidential election, and possible collusion with the Trump campaign. That makes any concessions to Moscow controversial. Russia's threat to expel some American diplomats if it does not get its property back would further complicate the strained relationship.